but wait a minute, you have a rule for that. Don't do that. Good day, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Monday Morning Moments with Mark. I hope this finds you well, and I hope you can hear me clearly. I'm clearly in a different place than my usual setting for this week's episode, and very special thanks to my friend Amber Wyatt for reminding me what day of the week it was. I'm currently down here in Nicaragua working with a nonprofit, actually teaching a personal development workshop using the principles of the happiness success cycle to members that local nationals here that work with the nonprofit. So day one went very well. More to follow on this project in the future of taking that and turning it into a full functioning program, but day one went well. So as always, we have to start with the funniest thing, and the funniest thing that happened this week was I was going to, there's a place here that is a chocolate paradise is what it's called. They make all of their products out of cacao and everything, and it's a pretty interesting drive to get down there. It's right next to the lake, and as I'm going down there, up in the trees in like plain English, there's this giant sign, not really giant, but pretty good size, that says "Enjoy life," and I was like, "I got it, buddy." So I'm doing well. Having a good time and feel like I'm accomplishing a lot of good things here. So that's the great things that's happening this week. But thanks to Amber, I completely forgot yesterday. I knew it was Monday because it was the first day of the course and everything. And but Amber's like, "Hey, where are the other 12 rules at?" And I was like, "Oh my God, it is Monday." So I just got lost up in that. So here's a very special Tuesday episode. So without further ado, let's talk about those other 12 or the other 11 rules. Sorry, starting with number 12. So if you don't like the way something is, do something about it. I think that rule is pretty straightforward, and essentially it's the don't complain rule. If you don't like it, either change it, contribute to improving it, or stop letting it bother you. Rule 13, don't waste time on things you can pay others to do with equal results. You can always get more time, you can never get more money. Wait a minute, that's backwards. You can always get more money, you can never get more time. So I wish we could always get more time. But that's basically the essence of that rule is don't waste your time. If you can pay someone, first of all, if you have the means to, if you can pay someone to do something and get the equal result that you would have doing it yourself, then invest your time elsewhere. Um, Rule number 14, you can only help someone as much as they will allow you. This one is something that I learned as a teacher that certain students, really all students, honestly, there's a certain point where they no longer want or need your help, and they've either gained independence or lost interest in the topic, one of the two. And from there, that's where they kind of develop that a little bit of independence, and we'll get to another rule on that in a minute. But really, you can only help someone as much as they allow you. The other side of that, from the growth side, is the negative side, is when people shut you out and they don't want your help, or they're not interested in being helped at all, and that's kind of sad. So rule 15, don't work any harder than you have to, but first make sure you know how hard you have to work. I call this one the "if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying" rule. I used to tell my students, they're like, "This is so hard, this is so hard." I'm like, "Why are you working any harder than you have to? Here are the basic requirements. You have other more important things to do with your life. This does not need to be your doctoral thesis for this project right now. Like, it's not that important. If it is, then put in the effort. Make sure you know how hard you have to work, but don't work any harder than you have to. Don't complicate life." Rule 16, the only thing you can do about yesterday is figure out how to make today better. A lot of people, have this like, oh, reflecting back, and that's important that we reflect back, but take the good lessons and grow forward. Rule number 17, I call this one the parent rule. The more you enable those who depend on you, the more independence you can have, or the more independence you gain. So if someone in your life is dependent upon you for something, anything, and you enable and empower them to, take care of themselves. This gets back to the other rule we're talking about with helping people. And so when you do that, it allows them to become less dependent on you, and they're empowered on their own right. So maybe I should change it to the empowerment rule. Rule 18, always have friends you can talk and laugh with all night for no good reason. That's just good practice, and it's important to not only have that, but recognize who those people are and appreciate them for it. Rule number 19, never stop doing something you truly enjoy for something you might enjoy. A lot of times, different things come along in our life and we'll sacrifice time in something that we know brings us pleasure because we have this to do or this new interest or we want to try this new venture or whatever it is. And sometimes that can lead to great growth and a whole new life course, and sometimes it just we find ourselves distracted from the thing that we truly enjoy. So do that with caution, and don't ever just completely just stop doing what you know truly brings you joy. Rule number 20. The only person you can ever truly be mad at is yourself. This is my adaptation on or extension of a rule that I learned from a guy I coached with, Coach Eddie Fields, where he said you either coach it or you allow it. And that's what that really boils down to, is that if something, you get mad about something, if you look back on that situation, you either coached it into existence or you allowed it to happen because you didn't set boundaries and expectations, all these different things that go into that. So rule number 21, I love this one. Plenty of people have gotten in trouble for doing the right thing. None of them have ever been wrong. It's often hard to do the right thing, and we don't always do the right thing, but when you do, sometimes you still get in trouble for doing the right thing. But if you know that your heart's in the right place and you know it's the right thing to do, then you won't be wrong. You might get in trouble, might go to jail, might who knows what, but you won't be wrong. And finally, rule 22. If you tell yourself something enough times, eventually you'll believe it. And that works on both sides. Kind of a different version of the if whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Whatever you tell yourself, the story, the narrative that's going on in your head, eventually you're going to believe it, even if it's completely fabricated. So be very cautious of the things that you find yourself saying to yourself. So those are the rest of the rules. And to sit here and tell you that I live by every single one of those every day of my life would be a complete lie. That's not the truth. I find myself a lot of times having to get caught and go, wait a minute, you have a rule for that. Don't do that. And that's just how it is. And sometimes you realize that you broke a rule, and a lot of times I found myself reflecting back, man, how did this happen? And I'm like, you neglected that rule in this moment, and that's where it went. So that's kind of the way that the rules have developed over time and how I use them to keep me in check. So take them for what they're worth to you, and continue to take the ones that apply to your life, that fit for you, and put them in your set of rules, and keep growing your own set of rules, and get better. That's what we're here for. So have a great week.